Hello everyone, myself Sukrishna. In this video, I am going to explain about database activities like bulk insert activity, bulk update activity, and key differences between insert activity and bulk insert activities in UiPath Studio. So let's get started. For the bulk update activity, we have a property bulk batch update. In case if you are handling huge number of data, if you enable this option, the data will be divided into multiple batches and the updation will happen quickly. Then we need to specify the database connection details. If the connection is already created, we can mention the database connection variable name in the existing connection field. Or else we can mention the connection string plus provider name. So here I am going to mention the DB connection variable in the existing connection. The output of the bulk update activity will give us the affected rows count. So here I am going to mention the variable int affected rows. Then I am going to take one log message to display the affected rows count. Right. For the bulk update activity, we need to mention the target table name. So here I am going to mention employee details, and then we need to specify the input data table. So here I mention dt underscore input. Then we need to specify columns used for matching rows. Means which column you wanted to match to update the remaining columns. In the employee details table, we have three columns are available: employee ID, employee name, and salary. If we mention employee ID, so based on the employee ID, the remaining name and salary will going to be updated. If we mention employee ID and employee name, based on these combinations, if any row matches, the salary will get updated. So here I am going to mention employee ID. So here we need to mention the columns in the array format, right? Then the input data table. The input data table structure should exactly match with the database table structure, like column name and data type. So if both are mismatches, then this bulk update activity will give us the error. In the input data table, for all the columns, I have mentioned the data type as string. But in the database for employee details table, for employee ID, I have mentioned data type as integer. For salary, I have mentioned data type as money, right? Before changing this data type, first let's run the process and see what will happen. So here we are getting the exception, and if you open the exception message, so the exception message is saying that the provided columns in the data table do not match the column data type in the database, right? So let's stop the process. So let's change the data type for employee ID and salary, right? Save and run the process and verify the output. Now the process execution has been completed. In the output we can see affected rows count is 2. So let's go back to the SQL server. So let's execute the select query. So here you can see for employee ID 1 and 2, the employee name and salary has been updated as per the input data table, right? For the bulk insert activity, we need to mention the database connection details. So here in the existing connection, I'm going to mention DB connection variable. The output of the bulk insert activity will give us the effective rows count. So here I am mentioning the int effective rows variable. Then I'm going to take one log message to display the effective rows count. So for the bulk insert activity, we need to mention the target table name. So here I'm mentioning the employee details, and then we need to mention the input data table. So the input data table structure should exactly match with the database table structure like column name and the data type. So in the build data table, I have mentioned the same structure. So here I am going to change the value 100 and 200. I am going to change the name 7 90,000 and Ravi 95,000. And let's verify these details are already available in the database or not. So the employee ID 100 and 200 details are not available. Let's save and run the process and verify the output. Now the process execution has been completed. If you go to the output panel, you can see affected rows count is 2. And let's verify the details in the database. Let's execute the select query. So the two employee details has been added, right? Compared to insert activity, the bulk insert activity will going to insert the records in the database tables very quickly. When it comes to input data table structure, while we are working with bulk insert activity, the input data table structure should exactly match with the database table structure, like column names, data type, and order of the columns. Here, for bulk insert activity, I have created input data table and the structure is exactly same as database table structure. So let's see if I change the data type for employee ID, so what will happen, right? Now, the input data table structure and the database table structure is not same. So let's run the process and see what will happen. So we are getting the exception, and if I open the exception message, so it is saying that the data type is mismatched, right? Let's stop the process. So I'm going to change the data type to integer. The order of the input data table columns and the order of the database table columns should exactly match, else we will get the exception. So here I'm going to change the order, right? So let's save and run the process and see. So we are getting the exception, right? When you are working with insert activity, the order of the input data table columns doesn't matter. So we can mention the string as a data type for all the columns, but the data should be in the acceptable format. So here I have mentioned the all the columns data type as a string. right? So let's click on OK and let's run the process. So in the output we can see affected rows count is 2, right? Now I am going to change the order, right? Now let's run the process and verify the output. So in the output we can see affected rows count is 2. So let's go to the SQL server and verify these details. So let's execute the select query, and here you can see 9062 employee details added 2 times, right?